Okay, hello everybody. Just a little message on my screen saying that we are now live and we're now broadcasting. So I hope people can see me. Yet again, just the technology slightly flaky to start with, but I think we're up and running now. There were 4 or 5 people who asked to be involved in the Hangout and they've been sent invitations. I think some people have got them, some people haven't. That's fine. We're going to be on there for nearly an hour, I guess. That's what the Hangouts tend to be. So if the people who do have their invitations still want to connect, then please feel free to do so as we go along. But it's after 8:05 now, so what I don't want to do is hold on too long because I'm aware that there are probably 30 or so people watching live at the moment, and I certainly don't want to leave them out and leave them hanging on while we wait for the technology to get started. So, I had planned for people to be on screen talking again as in the previous Hangout, but if they turn up, great. If they don't, then there's plenty of material that we can work on just now. The first thing to do would be to say that obviously that week 5 has finished now and we're now in the exam week. For anyone watching this that isn't aware yet, there's been an extension on the exam deadline, so that's until next week. You can find all the dates on the Coursera page. What I would say is that if anyone's sitting here thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to do the exam, should I do the exam, or I don't feel like I'm ready to do the exam, then there's a couple of things that you might want to think about. Well, the first thing would be, if you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. There's no reason why you would be forced to do it. What I would say though is that we've kind of spent a bit of time thinking about what the exam would be and how it would really consolidate all the learning and give you a way to apply a lot of the skills that you've learned. So if you feel like you're thinking, oh, should I do the exam, should I not? I would say please go for it, see what you think, and if nothing else, it will hopefully be instructive to you to maybe fill in some of the gaps in your knowledge, or at least even point out where some of the gaps in your knowledge might be. And actually, I think a lot of the people that I've spoken to, either on the forums or through Facebook and Twitter and even emails that I've been receiving, I think these people had a shot at it and been quite surprised at how they've actually got on with it. They've been surprised at just how much they know, and when they've worked through it methodically and really applying all the things that they've learned in the previous weeks, they've been surprised at just how well they've managed to do it. And actually, the things that they were worried about aren't necessarily the areas that they need to brush up on. It's pointed them in other directions. And again, we're here. We can provide more links and more Hangouts and more information to fill in any gaps that you think you may have. So, honestly, please, if you're sitting worrying about it or you're sitting thinking, I don't want to do the exam, don't. Have a go at it. There's nothing really to lose. See how you get on, and we're here to help. And you've got a really active community around you in the forums that are ready and willing to help as well. The other thing is, if there's anyone still worrying about the fact that they're going to have to grade someone else's work, obviously we're going to provide an answer sheet for you, so you're going to be able to kind of work through that against what we've got. Again, that's another instructive part of the process, because you'll be able to look at the answers that we're providing and even look back at your homework and say, oh, that's interesting, I didn't spot that, or yep, I got that bit, that was exactly right. So really that's a couple of minutes of me just mumbling about the exam, but if it was me doing the course, I would be wanting to take it, just because it's not a horrible hurdle that we've placed at the end, or it's certainly not intended to be. What it is an extension of the learning that you've got. It's an opportunity to consolidate, to practice, and to really work on a lot of the skills that you've developed during this course. So hopefully that will set some people's minds at ease. So really what I wanted today was talk about some of the week 5 material, some of the things that were covered in the week 5 material, and also start looking at some of the ways that we can kind of go about thinking about what's in the exam and how to go about doing it. You'll be disappointed if you were coming here to see me talking through the exam. Of course, that's not what I'm going to do. What I am going to do is obviously just talk through ways to go about doing the exam. I'm noticing a couple of people mentioning things on the Hangout site. I'm just going to have a quick look at that because I'm wondering if there is a sound issue. So what I want to do is just talk about this convention that we've got for inversions, first of all. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people on the forum and on the social media have been mentioning that they're maybe slightly struggling with, or that they're slightly uncertain as to how they understand inversions or how to go about working them out. So what I want to do is just share my screen here and put you over to Sibelius, as we have done in previous Hangouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in the treble clef, and I'm going to build just this chord, which is a C, an E, and a G. And hopefully people that are watching this are able to fairly quickly recognise that this is a C major chord. So this is what we call a C major chord in root position, because the root of the chord is the lowest sounding note. The note that we have above it is the third, and the note that we have above it is the fifth. So these are stacked up in thirds with the root at the bottom. So that's what we call C major root position. Now, when we're doing Roman numeral analyses, and when we're describing chords based on Roman numerals, we have a Roman numeral to describe the chord in relation to its key, and then we have a letter A, B, C, or D that gives us its inversion. So if we have a Roman numeral, then the letter A, then that means it's in root position. Now, incidentally, if we have just a Roman numeral on its own and no letter, then the implication is that that is in the root position. So the A is assumed if we don't have any other indication. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chord again and I'm going to invert it. Okay, so what I've done is I've just taken the bottom one and I've put it at the top. Bear with me on this. I know there's some questions surrounding how to go about actually inverting, but bear with me for just now, because I want to just show you in the most simple form possible. So I'll just put that back down again so you can see it. What I've got here is a C major chord, exactly the same as the one before it. I'm taking the lowest note, the one you can see highlighted blue here, and I'm literally just bumping it up an octave. Okay, so again, we've got our chord in root position, then we've got our chord, and what I've done is I've taken the lowest note and I've bumped it up an octave, so it's now sitting at the top. Okay, what I'm going to do is do exactly the same thing and bump it up again, so that we've got a different lower sounding note. Now, you'll notice if I take that chord again and do exactly the same thing, what we get is just the C major chord again, nicely stacked up in thirds, so we can say that that's back to root position. So how do we go about describing these other ones? Well, let's say that we're in the key of C, as our key signature suggests. And what I'm going to say is that this is chord 1, obviously. We're in the key of C, C major is chord 1, and that's A, so it's root position. Okay, I don't think that'll be too confusing for anyone. The reason that I've got the A in brackets in this case, that's certainly not the convention, but the reason I've got it in brackets in this particular case is because the one chord, if it doesn't have anything, as I've said, if it doesn't have a letter next to it, it's assumed to be in root position. So the A is sometimes seen, sometimes not, and we can take it as read that it's in root position. So we've got our chord in root position, so we've got our root and we've got thirds stacked above it. At this stage we're only dealing with triads. So we've got a C, we've got an E, and we've got a G. So that in the key of C, as the key signature suggests, is chord 1. The reason I've got A next to it is because it's in root position. That is, the root is the lowest sounding note with thirds stacked on top of it. It's third and it's fifth consecutively. Let's move on to this next one. We've got the same notes available to us. Now, it doesn't matter about the octave. It doesn't matter where the different notes are placed. What we need to do is look at any chord that we're presented with and boil it down to its constituent parts. And we only boil it down to its individual constituent parts. So if we had two Cs or two Gs or two Es, we'd still boil it down so that all we had was a C, an E, and a G. In this case, we do have a C, an E, and a G, but the lowest note is an E. That's to say that the third of the chord is in the bass, it's the lowest sounding note. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, still in the key of C, that's chord 1. It's a version of chord 1, just a different arrangement of it. But actually I'm going to use the letter B after the Roman numeral. And what that means is that this is in first inversion. Okay? And that kind of makes sense, because if we go back to it, if we put this C back down to the bottom as it was in the first chord here, and then we invert it, so we kind of flip that note so it's not at the bottom anymore, it's at the top, what we're getting is a new lowest sounding note. It's still the same pool of notes, but obviously that changes the way that the chord is structured and the way it sounds. So we're saying that that's B, first inversion. And then, obviously, if we look at this next one, we're seeing, again, that E that was at the bottom has been taken and put at the top, so it's been inverted again. So it's not the first inversion if it's been inverted again, it's the second inversion. And that's important because we look at that and we say, okay, the G, which is the 5th degree, is the lowest sounding note. And when the lowest sounding note is the 5th degree, we call that the second inversion. Okay, so hopefully that'll be useful to people, and for many people that'll just be a kind of basic recap, but hopefully that'll be useful to those of you who are still thinking about inversions and wondering, what does it mean, what are we calling it, why are we calling it these things? Well, what I want to do is go on and start expanding that a wee bit more, because clearly music isn't all just in one clef, neither is it all just nicely arranged like this. What I would say is you need to look at the notes, you need to look at the constituent notes, and you need to boil it down into its individual constituent parts. And we're going to do some more complex examples of this in a wee minute, just to talk you through the kind of processes you might want to use for the exam. But at the moment, what I want to do is just expand this a wee bit further and talk about the fact that actually you can have lots of different notes. You don't really need to worry about it just being a nice, tidy, polite triad. So it seems that we're live now. So let's get going. Hopefully people will be able to join in. If not, YouTube will have it for posterity anyway. At least it shows that we're trying, if nothing else. Great. What I'll do is I'm just going to plow on regardless now, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to just go back, a quick recap. Anyone who stumbles across this on YouTube, just to say that this is the second attempt of a Hangout. The first one crashed inexplicably, but hopefully we should be fine this time. So what we're doing is we're talking about some of the material from week 5, and we're talking about inversions of chords. So you'll see on the screen the remnants of the previous explanation. And what we were really saying was that if we've got a chord, we boil it down to its constituent notes and we look at what's involved, we can see that there is a triad there. Now, at its heart, really, what we've got here is a C, an E, and a G. You can see that built up there. So what we can say is that that is a root with a major third and a perfect fifth. So we know that that's a major chord, and because it's in root position, that's to say that it's the root, then the third, then the fifth, stacked up that way. We can look at that, and we would say that it's a major chord, and I suppose you could say it's in its simplest form. If we take that lowest note and put it up an octave, as we can see in the second bar here, we've still got the same pool of notes available to us, but what we're saying is that that chord's been inverted, and what we mean by that is it's still the same group of notes, but it's not in the root position order, it's been inverted. So when we do that and we invert it so that we've got the lowest note up at the top, or in a different part of the stave, and I'm going to talk about that more in a minute, what we can see is that we actually get a chord that is essentially the same, but different in the way that it's been built up. So the most important thing that we need to look at once we've established that all the notes are still the same is what the lowest note is. And as I say, we're going to go into that more because there's been some chat about that on the forums and on social media. So that lowest note in this case is the third of the chord. And when we have the third of the chord as the lowest sounding note in a chord, we say that that is the chord in first inversion. Just going through quickly again, because I think people did see part of this in the previous video. When we've got the fifth in the bass, i.e. the chord's been inverted twice, so that the lower notes have both have been put above the current lowest sounding note, we say that we've got second inversion. So just to rattle through that again, we've got root position is when the root of the chord is the lowest sounding note. First inversion is when the third of the chord is the lowest sounding note. And second inversion is when the fifth of the chord is the lowest sounding note. Okay, so what I want to do is put that in a different way now. The reason I've marked this up with Roman numerals, 1A, 1B and 1C, is because as our key signature here tells us, we're in the key of C major. I'm going to go on and I'm going to look at a different key now. If we look at bar 4 here, we can see that actually the key signature now has one flat in it. One flat, Demi, is the key of, I don't know if you can hear me there, Demi. Mandy, you want to help us out with that?
F major.
F major, great.
I can't hear you anything. I didn't hear anything.
Okay, no problem. We'll keep pushing on just in the interest of time just now, and hopefully you'll be able to hear bits as we go through. So yes, we've moved into the key of F major here. So what I want to do is just build up another chord. Okay, so this chord's clearly got more than just 3 notes. So what I want to do is say to you that this is just really building up from the most basic way of looking at this. What I want to do to you is to say, well, what we need to do is work out a way of finding out what notes are in that chord, boil them down to the individual distinct notes, and we'll get a few notes, and we need to work out what we're going to call this. Now I'm really kind of going from first principles here. So what I would say is get a piece of paper. There is absolutely no harm, and certainly when you're doing your exam, there's absolutely no harm whatsoever in getting a piece of paper and start from the bottom up and just write down the notes. Okay, so we've got a C, we've got an F, we've got another C, we've got an A, we've got another C, and we've got another F. So what we need to be able to do is boil that down into some sort of chord where we're describing it in its most simplest form. So if you write all those notes down, eventually what you get is a C, an F, and an A being the distinct individual notes. So we've got a C, an F, and an A. Now, as we did in the previous Hangout video, what we needed to do was work out how to get that into a nice triad form. We know that that's not in a nice triad form in consecutive thirds because, for instance, C to F, when we boil it down that way, is actually a fourth. F to A is a third, yeah, but we need to work out a way to get this into nice consecutive thirds. Mandy or Demi, whoever can hear better, Mandy, I guess, because you've just smiled, which suggests you're hearing what I'm saying. Can you, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I think you'll be fine. Can you tell us what chord you would boil that down to?
Okay, so we're starting with CFA, which becomes FAC.
Yeah, and FAC, does that give us a nice consecutive third triad formation?
ABC, yep.
Yeah, it does. So we've got FGA is a third, ABC, that's another third. So that's us in our order. So if we've got FAC, we need to then look at that and we need to say, okay, so we've got a root of F, we've got a third of A. So what type of third is A of F? That is, to put that in to phrase that in a nicer way, we've got F to A. What interval is that? Well, we know it's a type of third. Which type, Mandy?
Major third. That's
a major third, exactly, great. So we know we've got a chord, it's got a major third. And then we need to go back and we need to work out the interval between the first and the fifth. So F to C, we know that that's a fifth because we can count it very easily. But we need to work out what type of fifth. Again, Mandy, what type of fifth is that, please?
perfect fifth.
It's a perfect fifth, cool. And as we should hopefully know, a major third and a perfect fifth, or triad with a major third and a perfect fifth, is what type of triad?
Major.
Wonderful. So we can describe this chord fully as?
An F major triad.
Good, that's enough. Oh, yeah, you've went on to go on to what I was going to say, that's fine. So you were going to talk about the inversion. Do you want to talk us through how you would go about thinking that out?
Right. If I stack my chord FAC,
yeah,
and then I take the F and put it up on top, so that's the first inversion, and that tells me I've got an A, and then I take the A and put that up on top, so that's the second inversion, where I've got the C now in the bass, the same as the C that you've drawn out, the chord that you've drawn out.
Exactly, yeah, and that's absolutely fine. That's one way to go about doing it, but it's slightly time consuming. What's maybe even easier is if you just look at the lowest sounding note, which in this case is a C, work out numerically which position that occupies in the key. So, well, we're in the key of F, so F, G, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Immediately we can just say, okay, so it's the fifth in the bass. If you get a chord with the fifth in the bass, then we know it to be the second inversion. Is that kind of just a shorthand description of the process you went through, do you think? Or do you find it useful to visualize the chord being flipped on its head over and over again?
Yeah, I do tend to do it that way, so I stack it up correctly and then flick it up, the bottom one to the top, the bottom one to the top.
Sure, that is absolutely fine, and there's no problem with that whatsoever. And just like I said with the method of counting intervals last time, you know, some people like doing the semitones, some people like doing the kind of more musical approach to it. Choose a way that works for you and go with it. Again, I would just add a note of caution that if you're doing that with an orchestral score, then saying you've got, you know, many lines of music on the screen there in front of you, it could get a wee bit confusing. And what I would say is just a quick way to do it and a quick way to go about understanding it would be that if you just work out, okay, well, is it the root, the third, the fifth, or the seventh in the bass? We've not got a seventh in this case, but root, third, or fifth, and then we get A, B, C. And incidentally, if it was a seventh chord, clearly it could be inverted one more time because there's 4 notes, so there's 4 permutations. Then we would say that that would be the third inversion. But in this case, you're absolutely right. We're going to label this chord up as being an F major, and it is a second inversion. Okay. In the key of F, given that that's the key that we're in the key of F, how would we describe this chord? Okay, so that's one thing. What we're doing now is, in isolation, we've worked out that that's an F major chord second inversion, but we're in the key of F, aren't we? So there's an even more kind of concise way of describing that, and a way that actually gives us some indication as to what it means in the key. How would we go about doing that? And Mandy, I don't mean to pick on you so much, but it seems you're the only one with a stable enough connection at the moment, so you should get paid for this.
Thanks. I'd go with this is a 1C.
Yes, exactly. Now, it's chord 1, obviously, because we're in the key of F, so a chord built on that degree will be labelled as 1. And C, the reason we're calling it C is because C is our shorthand in the system that we use for second inversion. Okay, so hopefully people watching on YouTube and people who are watching the slightly delayed live feed should be okay with that. What I want to do is just move on and put another chord in that key. So what I'm going to do is, just so we can have this all nice and laid out correctly and easy to see, I'm now going to go on to the next step down. You'll see it's just an F bar, and I'm going to build a different chord. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this, I think. Yes, that's the one I want to build. Okay, so we're still in the same key. There's been no change of key as signalled by a new key signature, nor has there been any accidentals added, which would also suggest some sort of modulation. So we're safe to say that we're still in the key of F. Now what we need to do is go through this process again, and I hope this will be useful for some people, and perhaps even for you, Mandy, who I know you've got a bit of experience in this area. I think hopefully going through this is maybe Just good practice, if nothing else, for people. So what we need to do is we need to look at what notes we've got here again. So working up from the bottom, we have, let's have this one to make it easier to start with. We've got this, sorry, I'm just working out this as we go along. Okay, so we've got an F, we've got a B flat, we've got another F, we've got a B flat, and we've got a D there. So if we boil that down to the notes, we get an F, a B flat, we can ignore this other F, we can ignore this other B flat, and we've got a D. So we've got an F, a B flat, and a D. That's our three distinct notes. Okay, so Demi, can you hear us yet?
The question again?
Well, I just wanted to know if you were able to hear us now, but it sounds like you
Yes,
are.
now I heard you. I heard everything now.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Could you, we've boiled this down so that we know we've got an F, a B flat, and a D as our three distinct notes.
I would say that first goes B flat, B flat, D, and F.
That's right, okay, so we've got B flat, D, and F. And just to go through it again, what we need to do is we need to work out what our third and fifth are, so we can work out what type of chord that is. So we've got B flat to D is our interval of a third. Demi, can you tell us which type of third that is?
Major.
That's a major third, and then we've got B flat to F if we want to work out what our fifth is. So what kind of fifth is that?
Major, perfect fifth.
Perfect fifth, good. So we've got a major third and a perfect fifth. So what type of chord is that?
A major triad.
A major triad, that's right. So we've got a major triad. Now, which major triad is it? Well, we know that the root is B flat, so clearly it's a B flat major triad. Now, we are still in the key of F, so how are we going to describe that?
It is the subdominant.
Yeah, that's the subdominant, exactly. So numerically speaking, how would we describe that?
The fourth.
Right, exactly. So it's chord 4 in the key of F. Now, I'm going to just work through the other way of doing this. So what is our lowest sounding note here?
What?
What is the name of the lowest note that we can see here?
It is the fifth note. The root is the fifth note.
Yes, the fifth note is the lowest sounding note. We can't say that the root is the fifth, because the root is the first, obviously, yeah? But you're right in saying that the lowest sounding note is the fifth degree. So what did we say in the previous chord? If the lowest sounding note is the fifth degree, which letter do we add to this?
C, second inversion.
C, because it's a second inversion. Good. Now the reason I started with that one is just to show you that it's obviously the same, as long as we've got the fifth in the bass. But we can change that. We can change that by going to here. Which note do we have now? What do we have in the bass? What's our lowest sounding pitch here?
First inversion.
It's the first inversion, that's absolutely right. And Mandy, why is that the first inversion now?
B.
Because it's a D. Yeah, D is the lowest sounding note.
That's right, and
a D is the D is the third of. Hang on, the third. Yeah, the second note of the triad, or the third sounding note.
Exactly, that's right. And then obviously, if we just had that as a B flat at the bottom, then it would just be A root position, or indeed we can get rid of that A because it doesn't necessarily need to be there, because if it's not there, it's assumed that it is A and then in root position. Okay, I'm just going to pause briefly because I want to double check that everyone's with us on the course site. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to a different thing that I want to show you. It's starting to run a wee bit slow and a wee bit short on time now, just because of the initial hiccup. But what I want to do is go over to this instead. Okay, you'll be glad to know that this isn't what the last exam looks like. Okay, so this is a string quartet by Ravel, and clearly the wincing faces suggest that you're able to see the thing that I've put up in front of you. So this is laid out in a very similar way to how the exam's laid out, because it's a string quartet, yeah? So what we see is we've got the first violin at the top, we've got the second violin directly under that. It says alto, but that's our viola. And then we've got our cello at the bottom. You don't need to worry about the different languages that are used. That's the way that string quartets are laid out. First violin, second violin, viola, and then cello at the bottom. Okay? So all I want to do really is practice running through how we would kind of go about doing it. And it's exactly the same as what we've just done on the screen. But we've got things like different clefs to worry about. We've got different lines of music. And we've also got other information, you know, so we've got expression, we've got dynamics, we've got phrase markings, things that do make it slightly difficult to look at sometimes. So what I want to do is just run through it and pick a couple of chords and just get people to have a look at them. It's on the screen at the moment, so if you want to just have a look just now, I'm going to nip over to the course page and check that everyone's okay. Oh, good. I'm seeing people following and saying nice things. So the bass note dictates what inversion it is. Yep. That's from John. Yeah, John, that's absolutely right. So you're looking at the lowest note to determine the inversion of the chord. And it's simply, certainly when people are orchestrating and writing parts for different people, they might be far more concerned about the other intervals that happen between the parts. But when we're looking at it and we're only wanting to really know what's a chord and what's its inversion, we're really looking at the lowest sounding note for that information at this level. Deb's is saying, yep, now it's all falling into place. And Beatrice is saying, yes, I'm following. MK following. Fantastic. That is wonderful. Okay, so let's have a look back at this Ravel score. It's just literally I typed in string quartet. This is the first thing that came up and I took a screenshot of it. Because really what I want you to do is just practice having a look at it and practice working out what you would do. So what I want you to do is look at just the very first chord in the very first bar. Okay? You're going to do that. I'm going to speak to Mandy and Demi about it directly just so we can kind of stage it as a bit of a kind of tutorial thing again. But really, before you do that, that's the chord that I'm asking you to look at and identify. But before you do that, what I would be doing is looking for some other information. What would be good information at this point to look at before you even start wondering what the chord is?
Key signature?
Key signature, yeah, exactly, because firstly, it's going to give us any flats or sharps that we need to worry about, just from a kind of mechanical reading point of view. But also, more importantly, it's going to give us the context. It's going to kind of let us know what we're expecting to see and how these chords are going to relate to the overall harmonic structures that are involved. Excuse me. Looking at this one, what are we thinking then, key-wise?
It's got one flat, so it's possibly F major.
It's possibly F major. In this case, it is actually. It could possibly also be
D minor.
D minor, that's right. But if we just look through the first four bars, we're not seeing any accidentals whatsoever. And if we were in the key of D minor, we would be expecting to see accidentals. And the most likely accidentals that we would see would be
C sharp.
C sharp, exactly, because the C sharp would be derived from the harmonic minor scale, and that's the one that allows us to really start working with harmony. And in the key of D, it's the one that allows us to have the A major chord as chord 5. But we don't see any C sharps, we don't see any accidentals until we get to that fifth bar, and actually I don't even want to go that far with you today. I just really want to practice going through it. What's really nice is I've got one eye on the course site as well, so I'm seeing Jack Mulligan now is just saying the light bulb came on finally, so I hope so. I'm glad after that false start that this is going to be useful for people. MK's saying the key signature is F major. Absolutely right. Fantastic. It seems like even for me it's all starting to fall into place with technology now, so that's good. Okay, so that's me rambled long enough to give you guys enough time to look at the chord. How are we going to go about doing this? Well, I just like starting from the bottom up because I think it's a good way to go because it lists from the lowest to the highest sound, and actually, given that we're looking at inversions and we're looking at how the chord's going to sound, the lower end of the chord's often quite important. So that's my personal preference. I tend to work from the lowest pitch up to the highest pitch, but it's completely up to you. I'm going to just do that just now, just for sake of going through it. So, what do we have as our lowest note there, Demi? Excuse me. Well, actually, let me ask just a nice preliminary. Yeah, we've got an F there. What? Just that's right. Thank you very much. Just a wee preliminary question, actually. The lowest sounding note. How do we determine that, generally speaking? Slightly odd question, but it might not be the most obvious for everyone.
Well, I would hazard a guess it would be the one written in the bass clef, but with the alto clef and the bass clef overlap, don't they?
They do indeed, actually. But yeah, that's the point. You really want to be looking at the clefs, and you also want to be looking at the excuse me. You also want to just be looking at the order that things are laid out. And typically in scores, things will be laid out from highest down to lowest. So certainly that's something that's useful to keep in mind when you're going through it. But as we've said, we've looked at the bass clef and we've said that the lowest sounding pitch there is an F. Absolutely right. So let's look up at the alto clef then. Andy, can you have a look at the viola part there for us?
Yeah, that's a C.
That is a C, you're absolutely right, and I just want to say now, I noticed a lot of people on the forum saying, oh, it's so hard to count alto clef, it's really hard. I find it hard, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I count down the lines, especially when it gets that low, because I'm not used to looking at it. I'm a saxophone player, I don't see it all that often, so there's no shame in that whatsoever. But that's not to say that it's not important. So we've got an F and we've got a C. The second violin part, Demi. What note do we have there?
A.
Yeah, we've got an A, fantastic. So now, if hopefully people are writing this, that's right, thank you. We're writing this down on paper. We've got an F, a C, an A so far. And then, Mandy, what have we got in the first violin part?
An A.
We've got another A again. Okay, so we've got F, C, A, A. What I would be doing on a piece of paper here, if you wanted to, is to say, okay, let's get rid of the extra information. We've got two A's here, so we don't need to consider both of those A's. We just need to think, okay, what are the individual distinct constituent notes? Well, we've got an F, a C, and an A. Okay, so F, C, A. What we need to do now is get that into a nice triad formation. So how are we going to do that, Mandy? How would you organise that into a nice kind of consecutive thirds formation?
Well, it turns out at FAC.
It does turn out at FAC, but what's kind of interesting about this chord? I use interesting loosely. It does turn out at FAC. When we do it, but we've got F, C, A.
C-A.
So actually, that's not F, A, C with F just being, S at the bottom. They don't always follow that order. So I guess what I was trying to do by highlighting that and saying it's slightly interesting, some people have thought that when chords are inverted, it has to still remain in its order. So if you've got F, A, C, and then you flip F to the top, A and C should be still together, and then you flip that to the top, F and A should still be together. That's not the case. We look at it, we determine what all the different notes are, and then we look at the lowest sounding one, just as we've said. So we've got an F, a C, and an A. It would work out as F, A, C. That tells us that we've got what type of chord?
F major.
F major chord, exactly, but what we're seeing is that F is still the lowest sounding note, despite the fact that the other notes don't just fall into this nice pattern of thirds stacked up on top of one another. So we can say that we're in the key of F, we've got an F major chord, so numerically speaking we're going to call that chord
1.
Chord 1, yeah, so Roman numerals
First, the tonic.
The tonic, that's right, exactly. So numerically we're going to call that chord 1, and because we've got F, which is the root in the bass, we're just going to call that 1A, or just 1, and we would assume A if we don't see that written. That makes sense? Presumably fairly easy for you guys, but something that is hopefully useful for people to work through. And certainly it looks from the event page that people are having a bit of light bulb moments, so hopefully that's going to be useful. Okay, let's look on to bar 3 now then, the first chord in bar 3. Okay. So honestly, if people are doing this at home and they're kind of following when they're looking at the video, really write it down on a piece of paper. There's absolutely no problem whatsoever in looking at each of the notes, writing them down, scoring out any duplicates, or rearranging it until you get your triad, so you can really work out what it is. It's called harmonic analysis. It's not called just recognizing immediately. You know, it's important to go through this and spend a bit of time analysing what's going on. So that's enough chatting from me. That's given people enough time to think about it, hopefully. Mandy, what do we have as our note in the cello there?
G.
We've got a G. That's absolutely right. And Demi, what do we have in the viola? It's marked alto on this old score.
B.
Sorry, say again?
B flat. B flat.
So.
B flat.
Yeah, I can hear you, thank you. I'm just hesitating slightly because I'm looking at the score here and I don't think it is a B flat. Actually, Mandy, are you looking at it? Are you getting any other answer?
Yeah, I would say it's a D.
It is a D, and the reason it's a D is that on the alto.
The second note or the third?
This is the third bar, the first note in the third bar. So what we're seeing here is that we've got a D. The reason it's a D is because we've got the alto clef, otherwise known as a C clef, and that's centered on the middle note here, meaning that the middle line is C, in fact, middle C. So we are one note above that, so it's a D. Yeah, but that's really interesting because I think there are people who will probably be looking at the score and not quite familiar with the alto clef, the C clef, one of the C clefs. So that's probably useful to go through. So just to recap then, we've got a G in the cello there, and then we've got a D in the viola. What do we have in the second violin, Mandy?
B flat.
We've got a B flat, and people might say, oh, hold on, why is it a B flat? There's no flat in that bar. Well, look along at the key signature and you'll find that we're absolutely right. This is a B flat. And then, Demi, what do we have in the first violin part? This is the first note in the third bar of the uppermost line.
F.
F, that's right, thank you very much. So what we then have is G, D.
F.
Yeah, F, thank you. We've got G,
F.
D. That's right, thank you. We've got G, D, B flat, F. So what we need to do is work out a way to stack that into thirds. Clearly we've got no duplicates, but what we've got for the first time actually when we were doing these little exercises in this Hangout is that we've got 4 distinct notes. So let's try and get that into some arrangement of thirds. Mandy, have you got any ideas on that?
Yeah, I've written down a list of thirds. So I'm looking at the list I've got of thirds, just running in order, and
Okay.
I've got G, B flat, D, F.
That's right. So we've got G, That's right, and that works out as thirds stacked on top of each other. So we've got G to B flat is a third, B flat to D is a third, D to F is a third. So we've got it stacked up in thirds there. So that's us got the chord into its root position. We've got G, D, B flat, F. Now we need to go, and I know this will be painfully slow for some people, but I think what we really want to do here is just make things blatantly obvious so we can go through every step, because it'll be useful for people to go back and use as a resource, hopefully. We've got G, B flat, D, F when we arrange this into its order. So G to B flat, B flat's our third. So what type of third do we have there, Demi? G to B flat.
Third minor.
It's a minor third, that's right, thank you very much. And then we need to work out the fifth. Mandy, can you tell us what G to D is? What type of fifth?
Perfect fifth.
Perfect fifth, okay, so our triad then is a minor third and a perfect fifth. So what type of triad is that?
A minor triad.
Minor.
Minor triad, yes, we've got a minor triad, so that's a minor third and a perfect fifth. Now we need to work out what type of seventh is it. Well, we've got G to F. What type of seventh is that?
Minor seventh.
It's a minor
Minor
seventh.
seventh.
That's right, guys. Thank you very much. You're both absolutely right. So we've got a minor triad now, or sorry, I should say we've got a chord that consists of a minor triad and a minor seventh. Do you remember from the last Hangout? Incidentally, you were both actually in it. A minor triad that has a minor seventh as well. What type of seventh chord do we describe that as?
A minor seventh.
A minor seventh, exactly. We know that in this case the root is
G.
G. So just in English terms then, what do we call that chord? Don't worry about the numerical terms yet. Just in spoken language, what do we call that chord? It's a minor seventh chord built on G.
G minor seven.
G minor seven, yeah, exactly. That's absolutely right. Now, in the key of F, which this piece seems to be in at this point, and again, this is painfully slow and obvious for some people. I do apologise, but I really think this will be useful, certainly looking at some of the comments we've had. In the key of F, obviously, if we were going to build a chord on G, numerically speaking, it would be
2.
2. Cool. Now, going all the way back to the week 2 material, what in a major key, what type of chord? That's right, Demi, thank you. Yeah, the second. So chord 2. So in a major key, going all the way back to week 2 here, I think, what quality do we expect the chord built on chord 2 of a major key to have?
Minor.
Minor, good. And then if we think up to last week, week 4 stuff, or the week before even, we built that into seventh chords, and we said that actually in a major key, chord 2 is a minor seventh, or the seventh chord built on chord 2 of a major key is minor seventh. So, firstly, we've decided, yeah, well, okay, it's a root of G, so it's built on the second chord, and then we use that as a bit of a verification, really, to say, oh, hang on, can chord 2 be a minor seventh in a major key? Well, actually, yes, it can. So, we're just going to describe that as chord 2. We're going to describe it as chord 2A, obviously, because it's in root position. The G, which is our root, is the lowest sounding note. Then what we're going to do is just double check it with the key and find that actually the chord 2 in a minor seventh is absolutely fine, perfect. So we're just going to label that as lowercase 2, so lowercase I, A. And that's it, exactly. John on the event page has just said supertonic. That's absolutely right as well. But if we use Roman numerals, we're going to say lowercase I, A. And that gives us chord 2A. Now, that's again, so obvious to some people, but not necessarily obvious to everyone, because chord 2 is one of these chords that sometimes, I don't want to give the game away too much here, but it's sometimes changed in some ways. And it's often the quality of it that's changed, and that really does something important for us, harmonically speaking. It takes us to a different key. I don't want to talk about it too much, because I'm in danger of treading on people's toes who are trying to do the exam here, but all I'm saying is it's important not just to look at the low sounding note, see that it's built on that and say, well, it must be 2. You need to really check through, figure out that does that quality fit with the key that we're in? Great. If it doesn't, it might actually be that we've changed the key and that we need to base it on something else. Okay, let's, just for the sake of keeping going with this just now, let's have a look at bar 4, please. And again, we're just going to look at the first thing in bar 4, the first event, the first chord in bar 4. So we've spent a bit of time going through this, so I'm just going to talk through it a wee bit more quickly now, for the people who are perhaps bored of the repetition, but hopefully the people who are still kind of learning this and people who are having little light bulbs going on, hopefully this is a nice pace and it's starting to click for you. That's certainly my intention, is to help things click here. So again, we're just going to go through exactly the same process. Right, what do we have then? Demi, what do we have in the cello? What's our lowest note? They're not in the cello.
It is the D.
It's the D, that's absolutely right. Yeah, so we've got a D is our note in the cello. So if people are following through this nice process of writing the notes down on a bit of scrap paper, we've got a D, and then we're going to move up to our next one. Mandy, I'm going to be horrible and ask you for the alto clef again.
It's a B flat.
It's a B flat as well, thank you. You did the face of a saxophone player looking at a B flat as well on an alto clef there. So we've got a D, then we've got a B flat, then Demi, what have we got in the second violin there? Okay, I don't know if you're hearing me there, Demi, actually, but Mandy, I'm just going to come to you just for the sake of moving it along. What do we have in the second violin?
F.
F, yes, not an F sharp, thankfully, because
No.
it would give us lots of headaches. Just an F, which is nice. And then, Demi, can you hear us? Oh, Beatrice.
A little bit.
Okay, well, I'm going to just ask Mandy because I know that her connection is really stable. What do we have in the first violin?
D.
We've got a D. Good. So we write that down then. We've got a D, an F. We've got a D, a B flat, an F, and another D. So again, if you're following through this process, I've just noticed MK on the event page says the analysis cannot be slow enough, which is good. So hopefully I'm not boring people to tears by going so slowly. We've got a D, a B flat, an F, and a D. So we're going to just get rid of any extra information we have. Well, we've got 2 Ds, so we don't need to worry about that. So if it was me, I'd be scoring this out on a bit of paper, scribbling out the other D, and saying, okay, we've got a D, a B flat, and an F. Okay, how are we going to get that so it's stacked up in nice thirds, one on top of each other? Well, again, we're just going to follow the process. Just try all the permutations until we get them. So, Mandy, what do we have?
B flat, D, F.
B flat, D, F when we get into triads. Again, we're going to flick through this really quickly. We've got B flat to D. B flat to D is what type of triad? What type of third?
Major.
It's a major third. And then B flat to F to try and work out the fifth. What type of fifth do we get?
Perfect.
Perfect fifth. So, as we should hopefully all know by now and hopefully be able to recite in our sleep, a major third and a perfect fifth is?
A major triad.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. So, the lowest...
triad.
A major triad, I mean, that's right. Thank you very much. Sorry, there's obviously a very slight delay on the line, so thank you for that. So we've got D. It's our lowest note. Okay, so in the chord of B flat major, which we've established that it is, D is which degree? Is it the root, the third, or the fifth?
Oh.
The third.
Anyone? My lines went a bit fuzzy. So we've got a B flat, a D, and an F.
Mm-hmm.
Which note do we have in the bass, which is our lowest sounding note?
The third note.
Oh,
Yes, the third note, that's right. Sorry, it's a crackly line from you, Demi, actually, so I'm not hearing it perfectly. But yes, we've got B flat, D, F, so the third is our lowest note, the third is our bass note. So what are we going to describe that as?
first inversion.
First inversion, that's right. And how does that translate when we're using the letters system? B, exactly, that's right. So we're in the key of F at this point, we know we are. We've worked out that we've got a B flat chord. Numerically speaking, how does that work? What number, which chord is that in the key?
4.
Fourth, yeah, and the way that we've worked that out, just in case anyone's wondering, is literally we've just counted from F being 1, G being 2, A being 3, E flat being 4. So we can say that this is chord 4. We've worked out that it's second inversion. We've worked out that it's first inversion. So we can say that that's chord 4B. You happy with that, guys? Are you happy with that as a description of it?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So I said that I would leave here at 9 o'clock, and it's now nearly 25 past. So I've got to think about packing this up. But hopefully that's been useful. All I can say is go to Google, type in string quartet score, or just string quartet and look at the images, and you'll be presented with hundreds of these things. Just look at them and kind of try and decipher what's going on. Just follow exactly this process, and it's really useful practice. Then you can, when you're thinking about the exam, you can really look at applying these things, looking at how these notes are working, looking at how they're working together, then look at how they tie in with the key. And from there, you're at a stage where you can start to understand what distinct chords are. You can start to see how it relates to the key, and then you can see if the key is actually starting to change as well, which is quite important, I think. So, hopefully that is useful to you. Hopefully that's been helpful. I'm looking at the
Yes.
the course page. Oh, thank you, Demi. I'm glad. I'm looking at that, and I'm seeing that people are saying useful, handy, helpful. Light bulbs are coming on. Everyone's putting up the right answers. So, although it was a bit distracted, although it was a bit of a problem when we first started and we had some technological issues, hopefully we're at the stage where people are able to kind of figure out what's going on with that. I did also want to talk about cadences as well, but I've definitely run out of time, and I've been teaching all day and need to go home and eat some food. So I'm going to leave it there, and what I'll try and do is maybe make an extra video on cadences or do another Hangout towards the end of the week if I get the opportunity. But what I'm going to say in the meantime is good luck with the exam. I'm here, I'm on the forums, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, as are all my colleagues. So if you need to get in touch, please just do, and one of us will be back in touch with you as soon as we can, and we'll try and help out. But what I would also say is that the community that you guys have got around you of other learners, either folk who've just started and are getting up to speed, and folk who are experts and who are wanting to try their hand at this course, is great. For the most part, the forums are absolutely wonderful, so certainly dive into them as much as you possibly can. But at that, I'm going to leave it. What I'll do is I'll try and edit the two videos together and put them up as one video on YouTube, so there's not two separate things to look through. That might take me a few days to find the time to do that, but hopefully I will be able to do that and put it up for you. But otherwise, hopefully that was useful, and I will look forward to speaking to you all again soon.